Ieder weet dat Ruby niet kan koken. Ze kwam bij me in de periode dat ze was ontslagen, parttime gehuurd en dan weer ontslagen. Tijdens de tweede maalrestauratie en toen de explorers bezig waren met de herdenking van degenen die ons waren ontvallen. Het was een trieste tijd voor allen. Ik kon de orders voor de Kirelbeek Treats niet bijhouden. Ik probeerde een paar chefs voor de Guild of Caterers te huren, maar iedereen was bezig met de episodes en de chatlogs. Ik liet Ruby maar een paar dagen werken als labeltjesplakker en om thee rond te brengen. Ik ontdekte dat ze helemaal niet in de verzending werkte. Haar stand-in en vervanger Madge was bezig met het vullen van kratten met koekjes en de koektrommels met thee. Wat een zootje! Toen Ruby uiteindelijk terugkwam van een zogenaamde onderzoek naar de vent die alles in de war schopte, heb ik haar in niet verstaande woorden gezegd dat ze uit de bakkerij ontslagen was. Stel je dat eens voor. Madge weg, zij die nog niet eens een zakje in een doosje kon doen. Ik weet niet wat er zou kunnen gebeuren. Eerst dacht ik dat Ruby ons stilletjes zou verlaten. Maar ze begon te janken en te zeuren en te klagen hoe slecht ze was behandeld door de Kevin Today Show, over hoe haar naam door het slijk werd gehaald en over hoe ze een ontmoeting had georganiseerd om over haar slechte dingen te praten en over hoe onaardig en bazig ze was. Ik had medelijden met haar en liet haar maar weer een paar koekjes bakken. Als ze goed waren, kon ze blijven. Indien niet, dan zal ze moeten vertrekken en zonder commentaar. En de koekjes smaakten niet goed. Die nacht droomde ik over dode diertjes. De volgende dag ontsloeg ik haar op staande voet. Ik besef dat dit allemaal als nageestige roddels klinkt, maar niet dus. Dit is wat er is gebeurd en ik denk niet dat het verhaal van Ruby veel anders zal zijn. Er zal misschien iets missen of worden toegevoegd. De verwarring die hierdoor ontstaat zal uitgroeien tot een scala aan nieuwe verhalen. Ruby zal wel zeggen dat er een paar fouten zijn. Het zal alleen maar meer voeding zijn voor een nieuw avontuur naar de oorzaak van waarom alles misging.
After Ruby caused my wife so much grief, I called her into the CCN office and let her know it had to stop. But she started to whine, sob and carry on about how wickedly she was being treated by the Ghaelen Today Show, how her name had been completely sponged off the door sign and how they held a meeting to accuse her of several wrongdoings, including being unkind and bossy. Somewhere during her wailing and moaning, I leaned against the wall and fell asleep. When I woke up, she was talking about her decision to fall off a cliff in Edagira for a single purpose of collecting a lava sample. She needed 50 Denai exchange dollars. I dug deep into my pocket, found a few Denai and handed them to her. Not because I believed her in her Teledahn theory, or because I felt sorry for her in the least. I simply did not want to hear that tired refrain again. Likely every explorer in the cavern knew that she whined, sobbed and carried on about how wickedly she was being treated by the folks at the cavern today. I'd paid anything not to listen to that story again. What was done, and I think most of those TCT people were happy to forget she existed at all.
Issues with other programs produced by CCN aside, Ruby is determined to make a comeback with the book she will write about her exploits in Teledahn. I know that she's also working on a discovery she made out in the desert by the front gate. She swears that she visited a Mrs. Diego after 2 cowboys in a jeep took her for a 3-mile ride to the Diego estate. Somehow all the branches intersect. Ruby is convinced the running of Teledahn spores into Agera, algae, pellets, and lake water, and this Diego woman are all interconnected. She can see camels in the southwestern desert. Connect a few ancient dots, and there you have it.
Well, we saw it the same way. They were good at getting things done for their own purposes. When my uncle Ewicker started talking about a cyanobacterial algae, one of the honchos over there cut him off and threatened to disbar him from the DRC forum. They said it was mean to be talking so disparagingly about them. My uncle meant no harm. He was merely pointing out that certain algae, like producing or not, would destroy other organisms, and that the introduction of any algae by outsiders, particularly factions known to descend from the early Dunny, would have deleterious and bad hair effects. Yes, my Uncle Wiggers was concerned about his tea algae thriving in the dark regions of the bay, but he was more concerned there would be no story at all if the explorers with stories could not join in. When people get thirsty for lake water, the reservoir and the aquifers need to be replenished. Why not let the explorers join in the fray for moving the story along? I agreed with Ruby in those early days after we first met, the spring of 2006. I agreed with her until she started peeking into what I was doing. I told her my concerns were off limits. She didn't listen. She rarely does.
Let me just say I can't tell you how grateful I am that you let me talk in this documentary. A certain Mr. Tyion tries to keep my FaceTime to a minimum. I like the limelight. I like working in Miss S.J.'s laundromat, but ever since Merle refurbished me, turned me into a bot with parts thrown out of a 1980s answering machine, and coded me with some script that never worked out for those Writer Guild guys, I've been a real asset to CCN and their programming. If you don't believe me, just ask me. Please don't ask anyone else. They will say nope, not true. Anyway, I think most of the watchers of this documentary are totally confused by now. So I drew one of my diagrams that will explain everything. Once I drew a diagram to explain the hierarchy needed by the Messengers Guild to do their messaging, to keep honest, law-abiding explorers from messing up a perfectly good top-down management system that included a king and minions. I did the diagram at the request of some explorers who couldn't understand the other one, or the original premise. No one ever wanted to believe it, but I'm good at messaging and interpreting, because I myself was a message machine. After that first effort at clearing up the messenger snafu, I learned how to write in a special school. We learned to draw a picture, label it, write a caption underneath, write a topic sentence, 3 details, and a reasonable conclusion or reflective comment.